Hi guys, Bill again. It's been a bit fraught at work of late. I've fallen foul of our union and a few of the reps. Now, it's nothing major. It's no stand-up fight or there's been no shout matches. But it's just that strained, polite, passive-aggressive stance that you get when you find yourself at an impasse and you know that both sides know that the other one just isn't going to cave in. Now, it's regrettable, but I'm afraid I've had to give up my position in the union about it. But what can I say? I mean, I've got principles and they're not really open to negotiation. Now, that doesn't mean that all you conservatives out there can go digging out the bunting and celebrating just yet. I still consider myself a socialist. I still have a social democratic political stance and identity. Now that's with small letters, that's not to be confused with any kind of party that attaches that label to itself. Especially not the British one that tried to steal that identity a couple of decades ago. But I'm afraid I just can't support a transparently feminist agenda, and even if it's under a Labour movement banner, I'm not going to do that. Now, the issue in question is equal pay, or more specifically, it's equal pay for work of equal value. Now, it sounds good, it really does. And the first time I heard it, I had visions of plumbers and sparkies getting a pay hike so that they could match maybe city bankers and stockbrokers' pay packets. But the trouble is that they don't provide work of equal value. Without the constant efforts of electricians and sewage workers, our cities would become stinking, cold, disease-ridden and uninhabitable in a very short space of time. But quite obviously, that isn't worth nearly as much as the suits that are gambling away our future, sending our national reserves into a complete meltdown, and they plunge us into so much debt that our grandchildren will still be paying it off. Down off the soapbox. Now, my next thought was that I'd maybe have to split my pay with the cleaners, you know? I mean, they keep the building hygienic and they keep the building safe to work in, and that's got to be worth as much as shiny seats like myself do in the building, right? I don't want a pay cut, but, you know, they might have a point. But no, that's not it either. If the cleaners want to earn what the girls and boys that I work with earn, then they're going to have to learn to talk a whole lot posher. They're going to have to pull a university education out of their arse, and they're going to have to play an absolute blinder on the 3-day interview process. So, it's not going to happen. So how comes we're striking? And how comes we're holding urgent meetings with management? Well, there's some links below that might help. Take a look at the wording especially. Equal means equal in terms of gender, not profitability and not class. The union wants job assignments that are predominantly occupied by females to be paid at least as well as those that are predominantly occupied by males. Now again, that doesn't sound bad until you consider that both genders have legal access, legally guaranteed access to both sets of jobs. The lower or the higher paid jobs were chosen by their placeholders. So why the different pay scales? And why didn't the genders split more equally when they were choosing their preferred jobs? Well, maybe the job titles will help. How about janitors and school cleaners? You see, they're similar jobs on the face of it. You know, it's mainly domestic cleaning, but, well, I don't know, the biggest difference is that the Janny spends more time in the bogs, right? Maybe? No, not really. In most schools, it might be different in the States, I'm not sure, but in most schools and public buildings in Britain, The Janny is a combination of handyman, plumber and electrician. To justify his just slightly greater pay packet over the cleaners, they're often expected to take on part of the management burden as well. They tend to be the supervisor for the other cleaners. They take on the cleaners' job tasking. Sometimes they take on playground supervision duties as well. Now, don't estimate that last one. In a lot of primary schools here in Scotland, the Janny is the only character in the whole fucking school who's got the brass balls to break up bullying incidents. Really, far too pink and fluffy around here. And from a personal perspective, the fact that janitors are usually male means that I think it's nice to see at least one male on the payroll, just so as the kids get to see a male face while they're at school. What the employer gets out of it is an individual who negates the need for contracting tradespeople for routine maintenance tasks. Now, that might be unblocking the toilet. It also might be building and fitting classroom furniture. It may be setting up electrical systems. It may be fitting locks. It may be doing running repairs to doors, gates, fences. The list is about as long as the jobs that need doing. The janitor also tends to have a hand in security duties, particularly fitting, testing and actually using. At the end of the day, they take on monitoring duties and they tend to be the last member of staff out, so they've got a security aspect to the job as well. What I'm getting at is the janitor is a very, very cost-effective member of staff. Now, traditionally, that means a wee bit extra in the Janny's back pocket come payday. Now, there's nothing stopping a cleaner applying for the job, and it doesn't have to be a man that's the janitor. It doesn't have to be a female that's the cleaner. But, for the most part, the combination of the lack of additional duties and the more flexible working hours that cleaners get tends to suit them. And generally, that means it tends to suit women who want that job. Now, it may not pay as well, but their day is their own, and they're not the ones unblocking bulbs 3 times in a fortnight. At the moment, it suits everyone. And again, like I said, there's nothing to stop a male taking on the role of cleaner. There is nothing to stop a female taking on the role of janitor. Unfortunately, these choices made by individuals have started to fall into what are now seen as gendered roles. And guess what? The legislation and the guidance that governs European employment doesn't approve of men and women being paid different pay scales for work of equal value. See, there's none of that Americanish 80 cents in the dollar scheisse over here, boys. Common sense has just gone out the window, and the entire labour movement has taken up this good fight, meaning that I'm supposed to strike, I'm supposed to refuse overtime, and I'm supposed to even refuse to complete employee feedback questionnaires until this blatant sexism is addressed. I'll share a secret with you. I'm not having any of it. Here's a wee thought. Bin men are not dinner ladies. When those big burly lads turn up with a garbage truck, when they're manhandling overflowing bins weighing half their body weight, when they're dragging them towards a dirty great piece of hydraulic machinery, they're braving busy traffic, they've got shite weather, they're wearing inadequate safety gear, they're getting drenched in bin juice, they're slicing their hands and their forearms wide open on broken glass and razor sharp tin lids, you can bet your bottom dollar they are not doing it for love of the job or from a sense of civic duty. Now you take away the perk, and it's going to be hard to keep the guys that you've already got doing that job, much less recruit a new generation of them. If we keep this crap up, we're going to have a real problem. We need bin men, we need janitors, we need sewage workers, we need construction workers, and we need a multitude of other grafters that are just making our civilization work. Now tonight and tomorrow and next week, they'll do what it takes to keep the lights on and the water flowing. But they're not mugs, and their patience has got limits. If they see their reward, just a few extra shekels in their bank account each month, getting eroded just to meet the increased demands of people who could be standing right next to them, but chose an easier and more pleasant employment path instead, we're going to run out of the people that we need the most, and we're going to run out real quick. Now, this isn't about equal pay for work of equal value. It's about needing to take a long, hard look at what men are doing for us, day in, day out, without asking for anything, much less demanding, beyond what they've already got. Now, just because they've always done it does not mean that they will keep on doing it. We would be very well advised to learn what it is we've got before we start tearing it down. Now, if the last half century has taught us anything, it's taught us that feminist social engineering doesn't have any kind of safeguard built into it. Everything they do, they claim is a response to something: sexism, patriarchy, societal expectations, or any number of other bullshit excuses that allow them to avoid any responsibility for the problem in the first place, for their solution to it, or for any fresh problems that it brings up. If they succeed in devaluing the shittiest and the hardest, or devaluing the most flexible and employer-accommodating jobs out there, who's going to step up to the mark to address the pandemonium and chaos that's going to create? I mean, when the guys move on, can you just see our special snowflakes and our little princesses pulling on the safety gloves and the high-vis vests? Really? Because I'll be honest with you guys, I really can't.